This is going to be recorded in case you want to share it with any parent that you know, or for anybody that couldn't come if they want to revisit it or visit it. So last week we met and we talked about how to make the stay at home and stimulating and enriching moment for your children and for you. And following that conversation that we had, I received many emails from different parents from different parts of the planet asking questions on how to deal with discipline, how to deal with stress, how to manage to continue managing the situation at home with the current situation. So the idea of today's talk is to talk about how to take advantage of this opportunity that we have of being with our children and with the family in order to teach them skills for life and create a good environment at home, a good relation, and obviously have positive behaviors and accomplish positive behaviors. I'm going to be brave enough and say it's not only about your children. And remember that we always here in Education First with the VESS model, we're always saying that we point to the children, we point to the parents, we point to the government, and we point many places, but really we have three fingers pointing to us. So when we're talking about accomplishing positive behaviors, hopefully we're also thinking about ourselves. How can I have positive behaviors and decide to act in the best possible way, adding value, so that I'm a good model also for my children, and I'm a good architect of a significant context for learning and for growing together. So in that spirit, what happened? Yeah. I want to start reminding all the attendants that Education First has decided to go virtual, and now we have the Edu1stVESS Preschool to Go. I don't like the word preschool. I rather have early childhood education. So Edu1stVESS Early Childhood to Go. In this program, we are offering you a library full of appropriate age-appropriate activities to guide you on picking activities that you can easily do at home, but that also assure that your child is going to be developing according to the age and according to his or her potential. You are also getting live virtual activities with a teacher with interaction, so the child can actually have some contact with the friends from school or new friends if the child is new to the virtual classes. So we can promote some socialization and interaction beyond the family that is right now quarantined at home. We have live conferences like this one, and we also have recorded conferences. We have a live support chat. If you have any questions, you can text us, email us, and we will try to respond as soon as possible so we can give you support at home. We have private Facebook groups and one-to-one weekly teacher coaching sessions, so we can help you and we can monitor your child's development and give you tips on how to encourage development and the growth. So with that said, that I needed to say it, what is the current situation right now? And this image not necessarily is a reflection of what you are facing at home. It might be that you at home you are calm, quiet, and in flow and energized, which is ideal. But in general, from the emails and the situation and the way that we were like forced suddenly to go home and be in quarantine, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress going on. So what is going on? There's confinement, there's uncertainty, lately we've been receiving a lot of news on help from the government and so forth, but yet it's not everything so clear. So there's still uncertainty, there's still stress. We used to have a routine and a schedule, and suddenly everything changed. So our brain is still adjusting to these changes. There's social deprivation. We used to go to work, some of us used to go to work to an office and even to go to the grocery and meet a friend and so forth. And right now we're suffering from social deprivation, and the same thing is happening to our children. They used to go to school and they used to play with their friends or go to the park and so forth. And suddenly we are not longer having this social interaction that is crucial for our development and for our well-being. We are suddenly deprived of movement in general. So I'm trying to talk in general. You balance what's your current situation at your home. If you live in a house, probably you have a backyard or a garden where you can move and so forth. But many of you are living in an apartment. And obviously that represents a different situation and a different reality. We are probably suffering from some deprivation. We have people from the north and from the south and living in an apartment and so forth. So it might happen that you are not receiving as much sun as you should. And the healthy habits, because we're in stress and we are working and we are taking care of our children and we are now cooking and so forth, it might happen that in the current situation, our healthy habits are not necessarily in place. And all this represents I don't want to use the word danger, but an alert that we need to stop and rethink what is going on in order to assure that we are providing for a safe environment for our child's brain development and for our child's emotional well-being development and for our own. So in the current situation, we have probably all this negative that I have just mentioned, but on the other hand, there's so much positive opportunities that we are also facing right now. And depending on our attitude and depending on the way we train our thinking and we align our thinking and our thought, we have an opportunity for family time, we have an opportunity for growth, we have an opportunity to explore learning an instrument or to explore attending these webinars or others or reading a book and so forth, and probably more time for self-awareness and self-learning, probably learning to cook and so forth. There are so many other opportunities on realizing how we used to live our life, and there's a certain stop that invites us to reflect and to see and realize what is really important, what is really on value here, and how can we focus again on what is important so that we create a better environment and a better life for all of us. So with that current situation, I want to enter into a new topic that it's a very long and deep theme to discuss, but I'm going to be very brief and cover the basics about our brain. Because in order to understand how to improve behavior, and in order to understand how to help us and our children to become better human beings, we need to understand this organ that we have that is called the brain. And the basic knowledge about the brain, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to be repetitive because this is something that is said many times if you have learned from the brain. It is crucial to understand the brain in order to understand learning and in order to understand behavior. So our brain has been developing for centuries, for millions of years. for hundreds of years. And in this development, we have different stages of development. So the first stage is what we normally call the reptilian brain. It's not that we have three brains, it's basically three, I'm going to talk about three stages of development of the brain. So when we're talking about the reptilian brain, we're talking about this survival mode, this automatic brain that we have that is in charge of all our autonomous responses. And this reptilian brain is alert, all the time is alert, and it's alert through our senses. It's alert through our eyes, through our hearing, through our taste, to our tactile, and to our motion, and so forth. So one thing that is crucial to understand is no matter which is the area of the brain that is in place or working, or I'm going to explain in a moment, our brain, the first priority for our brain is to be safe. So this reptilian brain, and I'm going to use my hand to explain, just imagine that this part of the hand is your reptilian brain. And this reptilian brain is paying attention to, with all your senses, to any stimulus that is coming from outside and from inside. If those stimulus are dangerous or represent any kind of danger, the brain liberates cortisol and other chemicals, but especially cortisol, to block any thinking and to block any process, so that we can actually produce adrenaline and react. And the only four ways that our brain reacts, as in animals, are, first of all, attack. We can choose from attack. If we're in danger, we attack. If we're in danger, we can run. So let's be safe and let's run. The other danger is let's hide. So I'm hiding somewhere. And the fourth response that our brain has is freeze. So we either run, freeze, attack, or hide. Now, if the brain reads a stimulus, and that is not representing danger, it allows that stimulus, that information, to go to the second part of our brain. And this is the way that we explain it to children. So you can explain it to your children. And this is crucial for the rest of the talk that we are having today. It goes to the mammalian brain, or the amygdala, where we process emotions. And when we process previous information, the hippocampus, we process our previous knowledge plus the emotions. If the brain perceives that there's the danger of having a negative emotion, or has knowledge that this previously represented a negative experience, again, it will liberate cortisol, it would block the thinking, it would block the process, and immediately it will act in the four ways that I just explained. So if there's an negative emotion or danger, I will either attack, I will either hide, I will either freeze, or run. Now, if the brain perceives that this might represent a positive emotion, or from the previous knowledge, it can bring information that states that it was okay, it's not danger, there was something good from here, there was value here. It liberates dopamine and other chemicals, but especially dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, and it goes to the final area of the brain, which is the cortex. And in the cortex is where we can actually process the information and think, and compare and contrast and analyze and consider perspectives and take decisions and so forth. But can you notice what I'm saying? First of all, we have information from our senses, the information from our emotions to finally be able to decide what is best, to be able to think what is best, and solve and come out with a solution. This is crucial because if we're having a situation at home where our children are stressed or we are stressed, we are not thinking clearly. Our brains are not thinking clearly. So knowing this give us knowledge to understand that I have to deal with the input that I'm providing my child from the senses and myself, from the emotions that are being felt and that are being informed, previous knowledge of previous situations that we already lived at home, in order to be able to start thinking, negotiating, and changing behaviors. Because changing behaviors is going to come from seeing value and actually processing the new line of action. So please do remember about this brain and talk about the brain with your children. For your child's brain, safety is first, as it is for you. So what is safety for your child? Safety is emotional safe, safety is physical safe, safety is basic needs covered. So first of all, your child's brain is responding to a need for safety. Now, your child's brain, as yours, but I want to emphasize that it's your child's brain, because as parents, we need to understand what is going on in our children, what is going on in those brains, little brains, so we are not judging and desperate because of the line of actions that they are deciding to follow. Those little brains, those little individuals are multisensorial. The information that they are receiving is not the information of what you are saying. They are perceiving everything around them. Even if they are not in front of the TV, they are perceiving the emotions that you are living with the news. If you are bombarded with the text messages and the coronavirus this and the news there and the phone conversations and so forth, and the stress from work and everything that is happening right now, your child is being bombarded through multiple senses, and the brain might be overwhelmed. The brain might be detecting danger. The brain might be detecting the need for survival mode. And in survival mode, remember, we cannot think, we cannot process. We are either running, either attacking, either hiding, or freezing. I cannot think. Now, our brains and your children's brain is also social. We already know that learning is a social process, that we learn with others and from this interaction with others. And we were just saying that in the current situation, we are socially deprived. We are in such a confinement that the social interaction is very limited. I know parents, we are heroes and children love us, but they do need others. And right now, we're not able necessarily to provide these others. So we need to find ways for our children to connect with other children, to connect with other members of the family. And we have the privilege to live in the situation that we live today and in this century, that we have the internet, and that we, in general, if we are listening to this webinar, we have the privilege to have technology, and we can use technology. We can use technology to offer an environment to our children where they can actually connect with others and to have these social interactions, obviously at home. And we need to be careful that we are actually socially interacting at home and not surviving at home, like running or rushing, but really socializing, but also inviting others from outside to socialize with us. And that is why for us at Education1stVESS, we immediately reacted providing virtual classes and virtual moments to interact. So the virtual classes are not for the child to be in front of a screen and listen and look for a video, but the virtual classes and the virtual activities that we are promoting, even if it's with the grandparents or with family members and so forth, use for these virtual ways to communicate and to interact with others, because your child brain needs that interaction. Social deprivation affects brain development. It's not Ana Maria's idea. This is research-based. There are many researches already done about the impact of being in isolation. So it is crucial for your child's brain and your brain also to look for these social interactions. Allow yourself also to contact your friends, and not only through the phone, actually turn the camera on and see their faces and have this empathetic interaction where you can actually talk about your situation, seeing each other. It is crucial. Now, your child's brain, it's also in development. It's being developed as we speak. It's in development. It's in a developmental process. And when I talk about executive function, the latest area of the brain that developed is the prefrontal cortex. And in this prefrontal cortex, we have the ability of self-control. And those functions that we have in the prefrontal cortex are called the executive functions, because it's like the control tower in the airport. This is the control tower for our brain and our body and ourselves. And this is just being developed. And actually, the development of the executive functions, we know that it's going to be hopefully developed, if things went well, fully developed around 30 years old. So if you are younger than 30 years old, you are still in development. You are still developing these executive functions. And what are those? And I'm going to actually offer a webinar only about this topic of executive functions and how to promote the development. Is the self-control of self-awareness, self-control of what I say, self-control of my movement, self-control of my memory and actions, and so forth. There are 7 executive functions. So your child's brain is developing in learning how to self-manage. And also your child's brain is shaped by the environment and how you are setting the environment. And right now, your child's brain is enclosed to an environment that is very limited. So as parents, we need to look for different opportunities than, even if we are enclosed in isolation or in quarantine in this specific space, we need to be certain that we are offering a variety of possibilities and a variety of experiences, so that this little brain is able to find different environments, different themes, different provocations, different possibilities to develop properly. So we are not depriving our child's brain of a full development. I know I'm talking about a lot, and you might be thinking, yeah, right. So now I have to provide different environment for my children and the executive and the social and the multisensory, but I have to work and I have to do and I have to so forth. So in our previous conversation, in the previous webinar, when we talked about how to organize a stimulating environment, I will invite you to, if you haven't heard it, to revisit it or to go and visit it. But we need to find balance. And we need to find balance between our needs and our child's needs, which basically our child's needs are our needs, I guess. So we need to find this balance. And in order to find this balance, again, and I'm repeating, this is an image that I already used previously, but I think it's crucial that we go back to this. In order to be able to provide the best environment for your child's brain to have the best behaviors we want, we need to start with us. We need to start with us in being self-aware of how we are, in being self-aware of how we are dealing with our own situation, how we are connecting with others, how our brain is, what are the stimulus that we are giving to our brain. Are we stressing our brain, bombarding it with a lot of information from the media, from the texting that we are receiving and so forth? Are we finding a moment of quietness and breathing and celebration of our current situation? Are we in control? Because we cannot expect positive behaviors from our children if we're not actually having positive behaviors for ourselves and from ourselves. So my invitation, revisit the previous talk and look for strategies to deal with yourself and your emotion. Now, I want to go deeper in this topic about differentiating between the needs and the wants. Previously, I was talking about it is not the same to want something. I want everybody to be quiet. I want everybody to obey me. I want an ice cream. From I need peace. I need a moment to reflect. I need a moment to relax. I need that ice cream. I need sugar. I need energy. What are my needs versus what are my wants? And on this regard, it is important because your children's behaviors are always reflecting a need. And we're going to talk about what are the needs of your children. So whenever your child is acting out, whenever your child is having a tantrum or is persisting in an idea or is refusing an instruction that you are giving, behind those actions and those decisions from your children, there's a need. So I want to refuse what you're saying, but really what I have is a need that is not being met. So understanding needs and wants is going to be the first tool in order to improve behavior. You need to be able to look at your child, reflect, and look for the need behind, but you also need to model this type of reflections. You also need to play with your children about needs and wants. So in order, if we play it now and we read a story and we talk about the needs and the wants of the characters of the story and so forth, later we can translate this knowledge that we've been working with puppets or with the characters of a story or with a quiet, relaxing situation at home, the needs and the wants. Then you can transfer this knowledge to the actual situation of the needs and wants. So don't try to define needs and wants in the middle of a tantrum. Remember about the brain? If your child is already in the middle of the cry out loud and the tantrum, your child's brain is already blocked. Your child's brain is already in survival mode. So if you want the child to start talking about the needs and the wants, it's not going to be appropriate because your child is already to process. Your child needs to calm down. The stress chemistry that is blocking your child's brain needs to relax. We need to produce dopamine somehow in order to be able to transfer the information to our cortex to actually be able to process the information. So needs and wants are something that we need to play with in order to be able to transfer prior to getting to the tantrum or prior to getting to the stressful situation. Now, so needs and wants. We also need to prioritize. Remember, we were talking about purpose? Find your purpose. Does it really matter right now that everything is totally organized and neat and clean? Can I negotiate an area where they can actually have all their mess and be messy? Is it possible? What are my priorities right now? And what are the perspectives? Am I trying to lead my house and my family from my perspective only? Am I considering my partner in life perspective? Are we working together and considering our children's needs and perspectives? So that's something that is also something that we need to consider in order to be able to change behaviors or to build up very positive behaviors. So model your reflections. In the middle of a stressful situation, model yourself saying, okay, what do I really need here? Do I need to be doing this WhatsApp conversation right now with all my friends? Or do I need to be paying attention to my child? Oh, I need to be paying attention to my child because my child is talking to me. Or I need my time. I need this time for myself. I've been talking with my child. I've been dealing with my child. I've been focusing on my child the majority of the time. And right now, this is my moment, my time, so my need is my quiet moment. So I'm going to continue with this conversation with my friends in the WhatsApp. So make it visible. Have that decision model to your child. They are learning from what you are doing. If you do it only in your brain, it is very hard for your child to actually learn from your modeling and from your process. You can also say, wow, I'm so stressed, I need a timeout. I need a timeout, not in the negative way of the traditional timeout that go and sit down over there. A timeout is a timeout, a time for me, a time for myself. So model, and also don't just assume what are their needs and their wants. Ask them. Allow for them to voice them. Give them a voice and give them value. When you ask them, you are allowing them to feel important, or allowing them for time to be in charge. You might be thinking, yeah, right, but I have a baby, or I have a toddler, or I have a 2-year-old. They are not yet in the stage of verbalizing their needs and wants and so forth. It is true. It is true. But if you allow for time and for this interaction of, I'm wondering, what are your needs? What do you really need? And allow for time for them to process, they are already thinking, they are already learning from your modeling, they are already capable of thought, probably not capable of telling you, but they are capable of reasoning. So allow for them to start thinking about that and model like, I wonder if your need is for the bottle. So I'm going to prepare the milk. I'm wondering if your need is more of a hug. So I'm hugging you. Or you want my attention? but I've been paying attention to you all morning. Is it that I want, or do you really need my attention all the time? Because I know you can be alone for a little while. I know you can play alone for a little while. And that's a conversation that you can have with your little baby, or you can have with your 3-year-old, or even with your teenager. Even with your teenager that might be very stressed and upset and making a provocation, and you can also have this conversation. So I don't know if anybody wants to give us an example of a situation at home, and we can talk about if it's a need or a want. If anybody has right now in your mind, yeah, what about this situation? Is this a need or a want? Any question from the participants? If you want to raise your hands, we will open your microphone and you can talk. Or we keep going.
Hello. I have I really like your perspective and how you are weaving these different, because it's a mixture of scientific findings and educational research, and maybe, I guess, also practice. So I like a lot how you're weaving these different things.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you very much for presenting it. I'm going to maybe put a link of a neuroscientist.
Right.
He talks that it could support a lot of the things you're talking about.
Fantastic, Fabio. Just share the link on the chat. Fantastic. Yes, please. By all means, do share.
Thank you very much.
And do you have a question of any specific need or want?
No, it was just a comment.
Thank you, Fabio.
Thank you.
I'll keep going. I don't know if anybody has a question, or please do. This is a moment for sharing, and this is a moment for getting together and learning from each other. So Fabio, thank you for sharing the link. And I'll keep going. So the needs and wants. Now, one thing is the needs and wants, and another thing is understanding that we do need limits. Limits are crucial for our children and for ourselves. It's like, and I look for this image because limits are like the traffic signs. The limits are the way that we guide our children to know what to expect. It's the way that we have for children and for ourselves to know our boundaries, to what extent we can go, and that provides a sense of safety. Limits build the safety feeling. I always told parents when we were, normally we do this kind of talks in the schools with the parents, like we call them coffee mornings or coffee thinking mornings and so forth. And I always used to tell the parents when they came in, come in, there's a hole on the floor under one of the carpets, so be careful. And I remember one mom actually being very upset. How come you have a hole, a hole on the floor, and don't tell us where it is? Now, this was an example. Obviously, we didn't have a hole on the floor, but when we don't have clear limits, you don't know how to act. You don't know where to walk. So parents came in and they freezed, like, which is the carpet that has the hole? Am I safe? Why don't you tell us? Or if I tell you not to go beyond that area, then you know where to move and how to move. So basically limits, I'm trying to make an analogy. Limits are the guidance for your child to know to what extent to go. And there are different types of limits. There are safety limits. And those safety limits are this, you are the adult in control. You are the adult in the situation. So you have the big picture and you know what is safe and what is not safe for your child. And I'm talking about physical safety or emotional safety, or health safety. Like, we cannot survive only eating ice cream, or we cannot survive. It is not healthy to drink sodas. It is not healthy to, or is not healthy to. So there are safety limits that we have and are non-negotiable. It's for safety, so it's not negotiable. Now, we also have value limits. And in these value limits, what are the values at home? One of the values, we don't hit your siblings. Yes, you are exhausted. Yes, is your new baby at home, your new sibling at home. Yes, you might be jealous, but you don't hit, or you don't. We don't allow aggression, or we don't lie, or we don't destroy things, and so forth. So we have values that we need to be very clear on what are our values and our expectations in regards to values. Now, the third type of limits are the expectation limits. What are your expectations? What do you expect from your child? And in these limits, you have to be very, very careful, because you have to, it is important that you have high expectations, that you trust your children. If you are sending a message to your child of low expectations, of you are incapable of doing this, so let me do it, you are incapable of reasoning, so I'm going to force you, you are incapable of offering a solution, so I have to tell you what to do, what are the limits, or how are you limiting your child in regards to expectations? Are you seeing your child as a human being with a potential that is capable of reasoning, even if it's a toddler, capable of reasoning, capable of learning, capable of adapting, capable of negotiating? Because if I see my child from that perspective, my expectations are going to set a ground for a different behavior. And we are all human beings, as your children are. And we as human beings, we all have the need of contribution. We all have the need of being significant. We all have the need of autonomy. And if your expectations are that you are not capable, or you cannot, or you have to follow instructions, or you might be having a situation where the behavior of your child is responding to this lack of freedom, to this lack of autonomy, to this lack of possibility of showing that it's a capable human being. And there's a fourth type of limit, which is the preparation limits, like the process, the routine, the being prepared for. So in order to be prepared for, I'm setting limits. So if my child is engaged in an amazing game, and they are really engaged, building up something or creating a painting or something, and I immediately say, okay, time for eating, dinner time, everybody stop and come. Well, I'm probably not respecting my child's process and moments and time. So there's a preparation limit. How am I dealing with time? How am I dealing in preparing for what is to come, in preparing for the schedule, in preparing for the routine? So how am I dealing with the routines so my child can actually be prepared, be prepared? So be aware of this and think about, how am I dealing with this at home? Now, again, you are the adult. Be the parent. And this might sound terrible, but be the parent. You have the privilege of being the parent. You don't need to be the friend. And I'm not saying that you have to be authoritative, or however you say it. Sorry, that English is my second language. I'm not saying that you have to be rude. I'm not saying that you cannot Be loving and caring and supportive and compassionate. Be supportive, be loving, be caring. But as a parent, your child has the opportunity to have millions of friends, but only the opportunity to have two parents. So be the parent, be the parent. Now be clear. Is my expectation clear? Are we sending mixed messages? And I say we, because normally we have a significant other with us, but sometimes it's only me. Am I being clear? Because I might be sending mixed messages because when I'm exhausted, I allow them to do whatever they want. But when I'm more like calm, I'm expecting everything to be clear and consistent. So am I consistent or am I sending double messages? Am I being firm when I say, okay, in 5 minutes, and whenever this happened or after this, we're going to go, it's dinner time. Am I firm or am I sending double messages and by myself renegotiating the limits and the routines and the expectations? So am I being firm and consistent? Now, limits are a guideline. Limits are a boundary for your child to know what to expect. Limits allow your child to predict. And when I'm able to predict, and what I predicted happens, it's a good feeling. And when I have this good feeling that I was capable, I have confidence. And when I have confidence, my self-esteem builds up. And we want a child that is able to have good self-esteem to auto-regulate. I cannot auto-regulate if I doubt myself. I cannot auto-regulate if I'm always told what to do. I cannot have self-discipline if I've never was given the option of making decisions and leading myself. So I cannot have self-discipline. I might be a follower of my mom and dad discipline, but not necessarily I have self-discipline. And what we want is an autonomous child. So how, what, and when do I act? How do we do this? Are you listening to what I'm saying there? I don't know why it's, sorry.
Yes, Ana María, we are listening.
Okay, sorry about, no, but yeah, okay. So find the basic needs of your child. Learn about your child's age. What are the age appropriate expectations for your child? For your children. On Monday, I'm having a conversation with the parents that want to question and answer. This is going to be in a private group for all the parents from our schools. So I'm available and we're going to be sending the timing. So we're having a conversation for your questions and I'm going to go deeper about each age and how to learn about each age and what to expect at each age, because it's different when you are dealing with a 4-year-old, a teenager, a baby, or a toddler. It's a different expectations. The brain is processing different. A toddler is just beginning to understand limits, yes and no. A 1-year-old, less than a baby, around 1, is learning the yes and no, good and bad. So the negotiation of all the options and so forth is not necessarily the most appropriate line of thought with a toddler, even though we can have some sort of negotiation there. With the babies too, they're just beginning to understand that when mommy leaves, it's not disappearing, mommy is going to come back. So if I understand that, I understand that my 8 months old cries when I leave, so I'm start training my child with different games and so forth, so that child is not stressed if I'm busy doing something else. But it's understanding the age. And obviously, as parents, having assertive strategies to deal with the situations. So basic needs, nutrition. Please. And actually next week, Natalia, Natalia Pinzon, she's a nutritionist, but it's not nutritionist, dietitian, a registered dietitian that works in our team. She is going to be doing what happened with my brain? Mindful eating
Webinar.
For parents, so you learn more about what is good on nutritional habits. Sunlight. If your child is not getting enough sunlight, please find a way for your child to get sunlight. It is crucial for your child and for yourself. Movement. Be sure that your child is moving. If you are confined in an apartment, find a way to really play with movement and ask your child to move and stress and have really a lot of time for movement. I know they do it by themselves, and that is part of why we are sometimes crazy, but understand that they need that and probably organize it so you are certain that they are having this movement. Now, emotionally wise, they need the sense of belonging. They need the sense of belonging. And in this time of stress and this time of confinement and social isolation and deprivation, your child more than ever is looking for love reassurance, is looking for assurance that is needed, that the child belongs. Suddenly I don't have my friends, suddenly I'm not with my teacher, suddenly I'm not with my grandparents. I need to be sure that I belong, that I love, that I'm needed, that I'm unique. And right now I'm with my 3 siblings or my new baby at home and so forth. I am unique and I need for that assurance of belonging and bonding with my parents. So how much time am I really allowing for bonding and for my child to feel this one-to-one assurance? Now, the other area, and this emotionally basically are 2. If I have the nutrition, the sun, and the movement covered, you need to be always thinking about what is happening with this situation. Is my child asking for belonging, or is my child asking for significance? And it's basically those 2, belonging and significance. Belonging and significance. Significance is, I need to feel that I'm a human being that has value. I need to feel, and even if I'm a toddler or a baby, that when you look at me, this little baby, I'm provoking in my mama the most powerful love and smile ever. That child needs to see that. That little toddler needs to know that he or she is a human being that can make decisions and is empowered to decide. Ever since we're born, we're looking to build up our autonomy. And the only way to become autonomous is if we are given autonomy. So as a parent, how am I providing spaces for autonomy, for decision making, for contribution? How is my child really contributing? How am I greeting my child when they contribute? How am I allowing them to help at home? How am I allowing them to contribute with their ideas and with the possibilities of negotiation and so forth? So belonging and significance. Now, with all these basic needs, if your child, what are the strategies of your child in the behavior and the escalation of the behavior? The first thing is that your child, actually, I didn't put it there, your child actually do it. And then you are like trying to fix it. No, don't do that. But so they go and they have the autonomy and they go and do it. Now, so we fix it or we celebrate it and so forth. They ask. So if we say no, they ask. I want to do this. If we say no, they're going to repeat. It's a strategy. They have to repeat because they have to measure you. They're measuring you all the time, so they're going to repeat. And you're going to be consistent. Now, if they repeat and the answer is still no, they're going to cry. And if your child is not doing that, or if your child didn't do that, you have to be worried because it's a natural thing for our brain to do. So your child is trying to learn to be autonomous and independent. So your child's strategy is to measure you and try different strategies. It might not cry. It might happen that your child is not crying, but is going to look for a strategy to get to do it. So crying, screaming, and the worst case scenario is getting to the limit of the tantrum. And every child goes to the phase of tantrums. Now, depending on how assertive is our response, we're going to have a child that does a lot of tantrums, or a child that tried tantrums and learned, which is the sixth strategy, learning. If the tantrum doesn't work, I learn. The second time I try the tantrum again, I try de-escalating, I get to the tantrum. Actually, the second and the third and the fourth time, I might not even cry and scream. I go straight to the tantrum. I go straight to the tantrum. I go to the last strategy. If that works, I'm learning that it does work. But it might work for something and not others. So I have to try it all the time, because it seems that my parents are not clear if the tantrum is a good strategy or not. So I'm trying to read if this is good or not. So that is why as parents, we need to be so consistent. And they are learning and they adapt. They are learning and they adapt. So if we are not consistent with our strategies, they learn and adapt that the tantrum is the best thing, or ignoring what you are saying is the best thing, or going without asking you is the best thing. So depending on our response, how assertive we are with our response, your child is going to learn the strategy that child is going to continue doing. So what are your strategies? The possibility of strategies. And again, on Monday, I'm going to go through this like deeper. Ignore, punishing, redirecting, bribe, react. I'm in a reactive mode. Or finding your why. Why is this important? I already discussed it. Understanding the feeling. The feeling and naming the emotion of your child. I can see that you are frustrated. I perceive that you are sad. I perceive that you need this or that. I perceive, because it's your perception. It might be that you are making the wrong assumption. It might be that you are assuming something that your child is not necessarily feeling. Be compassionate. Understand that your child needs help. Needs help in learning how to deal with emotions. Needs help in learning how to deal with behaviors. Needs help in understanding that for one need, I might have different line of actions to fulfill the need. Be firm and consistent. Model yourself. Listen. Don't just assume. Listen. Ask them. Ask your baby. Ask your teenager that not necessarily communicates all the time. Ask your 4-year-old, 3-year-old. What do you need? I perceive that you want this. What do you need? Acknowledge their wants. Give possibilities and options, and ask for your child to give options. Life is about being able to understand a situation and find options. You are teaching your child skills for life. So empower them to provide options. Empower them to see the good and the bad of the consequences of each option. So when you are negotiating, have this conversation. Help them. If you are saying no because it's a safety limit, just let them know, I need to keep you safe. They might be crying, but let them know, I need to keep you safe. I understand that you wanted to get in the swimming pool, in the pool, but I need to keep you safe, so we cannot go in the pool right now. And love, support, and give clarity and celebrate the process. Celebrate the process. Again, age appropriate. Don't expect to be negotiating with the infant and the toddler as you are doing it with the 4s and 3s and 5s. Understand that the 4s, 3s, 5s, the 3, 4s, 3s and 5s have already been for 5 years in an ongoing process. So if you are trying to change a behavior that has been recurrent, understand that you have to be consistent and even more consistent and clear than with a toddler. With a toddler, you have to be consistent, but your toddler is just beginning to learn. With the 3s and the 5s, you are changing behaviors. So talk about it. Talk about it. Let them know, I'm changing the way I'm acting because I'm helping you I'm helping myself and I'm helping you to live more happily, to have a better environment and so forth. And I need your help. Can you help me? Negotiate. I'm like rushing, sorry, but this is like a very fast talk in things that it is important for you to revisit, and that we are in Education First, we are ready to continue the conversation with you. If you are part of the families that are part of the virtual program that we have, you are going to have one-on-one talks with us, and we can go through this specifically for your specific needs. And plus, on Monday and next week, I'm going to have different moments of getting together and just answering questions and just talking about your particular situations. So I'm like talking about it in a general way right now. I was asked in many emails that I received from parents from last week if it is okay to negotiate with your child. There are some theories that state no, because it's like you are losing your control. And I'm in a line with, of course, yes, but you need to decide what is negotiable. First of all, negotiating is having both parts discussing and reaching an agreement. Both parts. Negotiation is not you scream and I obey. Negotiation is let's look for options, let's discuss the possibilities and have a win-win. Now, we do not negotiate something that is about safety limits. We do not negotiate values. Those are values. So there are some things that we can negotiate and some that we can't. If we decide that this is something that is negotiable, be certain that you're looking for a win-win. Remember the needs and wants that are for us so important at the VESS model? Look for the needs. What are your needs and what are your child's needs? And based on the needs, state the purpose. So the purpose is to cover your needs. I need to have the meeting with my job. I'm having a meeting, so I need to have the meeting, and you need to have fun. So let's find a solution. What can we do so I have the meeting and you have fun? And then we look for options, and they can actually come up with options. Now, the result should be earned, not given. And this is psychology. The feeling of I contributed, I made it. This was my negotiation. I was part of this. This wasn't imposed by my parents. There's a negotiation here. It's going to assure the feeling of significance that we were talking before. Now, empower autonomy, let them choose, ask for options, and reason with evidence. This is a habit of mind that we are always working within the culture of thinking that we create with the VESS model, and we are inviting you to create a culture of thinking at home too. So reason with evidence. Whenever you state something, say why. What makes you say that? But also if your child says something, ask them, what makes you say that? And look for the reasoning behind what they are offering. Reason with evidence is one of the habits of mind that we're going to be teaching you so you actually can promote them at home. Now, my invitation for you, like your homework, and this is a homework for you, and if you want to share it with us, I would love to hear from you. But this is a light, a traffic light. So the red, if you have something in red, and I put like the little squares, so you can actually decide if I have this in red, in yellow, or in green, and as the lighthouse, traffic light. If it's a red, I need to pay attention to this. There's something wrong. I might be disorganized or in the rush. I'm not paying much attention on the nutrition or sunlight, of movement or socialization. Do I have it in yellow? It's more or less sometimes, but it's not stable. Or green, I'm certain that I'm providing the best environment. Because if your child has not good nutrition, if your child is deprived, sunlight deprived, of movement deprived, or social deprived, that is going to be reflected in your child's mood. That is going to be reflected in your child's capability of thought. That is going to be reflected in how your child is reacting and crying out for survival mode. Remember, your child might be attacking you or might be hiding, and you might be concerned, not necessarily because your child is not necessarily too noisy and but probably you are having a situation where your child is too quiet, in a corner, not interacting much. That's also something to be very, very cautious about. We need your child to be active. We need your child to be engaged. So am I on red, yellow, or green? In the way that I'm promoting belonging, am I having the one-to-one moments, really deep moments? And it's not necessarily true that it's not the quantity, but the quality. Obviously, the quality needs to be there, but the quantity too. If it's only once a day that I have really deep, amazing moments, well, at least you have once. But be certain that you have a variety of moments and situations where you are actually reassuring the love and the uniqueness and the bond with your child. Same with the significance. Am I a dictator? Sorry, I don't know if you are, but am I a dictator and expecting and guiding and control freak? Or am I empowering and allowing for autonomy and contribution? So where are you? Where are you with your strategies? Am I having the conversation? Am I trying to have the conversation in the middle of the tantrum? How is my traffic light? Now, I guess we're at the end. So I'm going to invite you to do the thinking routine, and I don't know if you can do it in the chart, in the chat. If you want to, I used to think, now I think on regards to what I just covered about the current situation and the impact of the confinement and the stress and the social deprivation and so forth for your child's brain. I used to think, and now I think, any learning about the brain, or the needs and the wants, or the limits, or the basic needs that your children have, or regards to your age, were you aware? Are you aware? The strategies that you can use, self-awareness. Any comments if you want to share, either with a microphone or typing it in the chat? I'm going to give like a minute. Anybody?
Okay. Ana María.
So hopefully you are thinking about and getting some learning from the talk. And I used to think, and now I think, allow yourself to make it visible for yourself. I used to think this about my child's needs, and now I think that I need to focus more on this or that. I used to think that the current situation was stressful for Titara, but now I think that I need to be very careful on providing social stimulus and social interactions beyond the current situation. What am I offering to my child so my child can actually connect to other children, connect to previous friends, connect, and so forth. I used to think that I knew all the needs for my children. Now I know, or now I think that there are other needs that I need to consider, and so forth. So allow yourself to make it visible. Natalia Pinzon says, I used to think that I was covering all the areas of my child's needs. Now I think that I might be missing on exercise and physical activities. Great, thank you for sharing, Natalia. And remember, it's about your child and also yourself. It might be that you are the one that needs the exercise in order to be able to cope with the current situation and to cope with the stress better. And to have, remember that we started saying, it's not only about your child, but also your positive behaviors. These 3 fingers that are pointing to you. How am I modeling with positive behaviors? So don't try to be over functioning for your child. Don't be the superhero. Have high expectations and trust your child. Trust your child. If you are consistent and you have your limits and your needs clear and your purpose clear, have the routine, be consistent, and you will have an amazing relation with your child, where behaviors are engaging and with a flow that you are going to celebrate. Remember to breathe. Remember to pause, to breathe, and to find something to celebrate, to find your pearl of wisdom. Find your pearls of wisdom with your children to find balance. Any questions? I'm open. Please do send emails. We have these private groups where you can also write your questions and comments. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you for being with us, and share if you felt that this was of any help. Share with other parents that might be in need of finding out ways to create better a better environment and better behaviors from parents and from children. Have an amazing time together. Take advantage of this opportunity and see you next time. Live a balanced and meaningful life, adding value to your children's life. Take care. I don't know if there's any comment. I'm going to be here a little more, some more time, but this is over. So if someone wants to have a comment or a talk, we're going to stop recording. So Analia, if you can start.